Today I'm going to be reviewing a really awesome devotional that I recently got from Crossway. This is called New Morning Mercies, and it's by Paul David Tripp, and it is a daily gospel devotional. Now, I know this one isn't new. It's been out for a while now, but it's been one that I've been wanting to get my hands on forever, so I was really excited to get a copy of this. So this is a year-long devotional. I'll just read a little bit about from the description of it here. It is 365 gospel-centered devotionals for the whole year. It says morning can be tough. Sometimes a hearty breakfast and strong cup of coffee just aren't enough. Offering more than a rush of caffeine, best-selling author Paul David Tripp wants to energize you with the most potent encouragement imaginable, the gospel. Forget behavior modification or feel-good aphorisms. Tripp knows that what we really need is an encounter with the living God. Then we'll be prepared to trust in God's goodness, rely on His grace, and live for His glory each and every day. All right, so then just to show you the layout of this is the hardcover. It has a slipcover on it, and then it is underneath just a white hardcover book. And I'm pretty sure there's some other cover options as well, like a soft cover. There might be an imitation leather cover, if I'm not mistaken. Paul David Tripp also wrote a lot of different books, which I'm hoping to read more from him here in the future, now that I've gotten this one and really started to enjoy that. So I'll come back and let you know if I pick up any more of his books and how I am enjoying those. Yeah, it looks like this came out in 2014. So it's been a couple years. I knew it had been out for a while. I'm going to remove the slipcover. I don't mind it when I'm reading, but I'm trying to hold it up for the video. It can kind of get in the way sometimes. So there's an introduction at the beginning, and then you get right into it. Now this one is laid out by day of the year. I'm not paying attention to that because obviously I just got it like last month or earlier this month. So I started on January 1st, and I'm just reading one or two a day, and I'm not paying attention to the date. Now, of course, you could get it and start it on January 1st, but to me, it doesn't really bother me that I'm not on the right date. I just put a bookmark in and continue from where I'm at. So it's going to give you a little like summary / introduction sentence here, and then you get your page-long devotional, and then at the bottom of each page, it's going to give you a for further study and encouragement, and then it gives you scripture to read, which I love. So I get out one of my Bibles every night when I do this, or every morning whenever I have the chance to do it. I read the devotional, and then I get a chance to look up the scripture in one of my Bibles. So you can choose to do it in a study Bible and then have those study notes, or a devotional Bible and have an additional devotional to go over, or you can just use one of your reading Bibles. It doesn't have any extra content, and just use this as your content for the day for your devotional time. So every day is going to look like that. So there's not a whole lot to show you in this one because every day is going to be laid out the same way. But what I thought I would do is, because I know it's kind of hard to read when I'm holding this up to the camera, I thought I would just read a day to you so you can get an idea of what it sounds like, and you can decide then if this is something you would be interested in reading. So I'm going to read to you from January 5th, and it says, "If you obey for 1,000 years, you're no more accepted than when you first believed. Your acceptance is based on Christ's righteousness and not yours." So that's the little introductory. Sorry, I just shook the camera really bad there. That's our little introductory statement here, and then we get into the devotional. "The fact is that sin is a bigger disaster than we think it is, and grace is more amazing than we seem to be able to grasp that it is. No one who really understands what Scripture has to say about the comprehensive every aspect of your personhood-altering nature of sin would ever think that anyone could muster enough motivation and strength to rise to God's standard of perfection. The thought that any fallen human being would be able to perform his or her way into acceptance with God has to be one of the most insane of all delusions. Yet we all tend to think that we are more righteous than we are, and when we think this, we have taken the first step to embracing the delusion that maybe we're not so bad in God's eyes after all." Isn't that the truth? I'm sure I've been guilty of that before. "This is why the reality check of Romans 3:20 is so important. Paul writes, 'For by works of the law, no human being will be justified in his sight.' If you prayed every moment of your life, you could not pray enough prayers to earn acceptance with God. If you gave every penny of every dollar that you ever earned in every job you ever had, you would not give enough to deserve acceptance with God. If every word you ever spoke was uttered with the purest of conscientious motivations, you would never be able to speak your way into reconciliation with God. If you gave yourself an unbroken, moment-by-moment life of ministry, you could never minister enough to achieve God's favor. Sin is too big. God's bar is too high. It is beyond the reach of every human being who has ever taken his or her first breath. This is why God, in love, sent his Son. God shows his love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And that's Romans 5:8. You see, there was and is no other way. There is only one portal to acceptance with God, the righteousness of Christ. His righteousness is given over to our account. Sinners are welcomed into the presence of a holy God based on the perfect obedience of another. Christ is our hope. Christ is our rest. Christ is our peace. He perfectly fulfilled God's requirement so that in our sin, weakness, and failure, we would never again have to fear God's anger. This is what grace does. So as the children of grace, we obey as a service of worship, not in a desperate attempt to do what is impossible, independently earn God's favor. So I really like that one. That's why I picked that one. Really great message, because sometimes we think, oh, we're living a good life. We're fine. We're good with God. But no matter what we do, even if we do everything perfect, like it said, it's still not going to be perfect. It's still not going to be enough for God. That's why the message of Christ dying for us that we read about here in Romans is so wonderful and so essential to remember in our everyday lives. So I just thought that was a really good reminder. And then for further study and encouragement, it says read Galatians 3, 1 through 14. So I won't read all that to you so I don't make the video super long, but definitely go look that up and put it all together and see what you think of that day's devotion. So again, every day is going to be laid out the same way for the whole year. There's 365 of these, goes through every day of the year. You get that introduction, you get the devotional content, and then you get a scripture to look up. And that's pretty much it. And that's a little bit more about the author here, Paul David Tripp. And there's also a scripture index at the end of the book. That's pretty much it. So this is definitely in my top 3 devotionals, if not my very favorite devotional since I've gotten this. I was really excited to get it. I knew I was probably going to really like it, but I like it even more than I thought I did. I thought I would. So I definitely recommend checking it out if you haven't read this one before. I'm also going to be pursuing some other books by this author to read as well. So once I get through some other things that I'm reading right now and kind of catch up a little bit, and I pick up some more of his books, I will definitely come back and update you about what I'm reading. And I would love to hear if you've read this devotional, what your thoughts are, if you read any of his other books, or if you have another devotional that you'd like to share. I would love to hear about that.